Welcome to the Capital News. I'm your host, Alex Caritas. Today is Monday, July 6, 2020. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you all enjoyed your 4th of July holiday weekend. Get some fireworks, friends and family, a little bit of social distancing, whatever you had to do, but hopefully you had a good time with friends and family and were able to enjoy Independence Day. 1776, July 4th, the birthday of the United States of America. What a beautiful and brilliant idea that attracted millions and millions and millions of people around the world to our shores. It's been a bumpy ride, of course. There is no true smooth sailing, but we always work and strive for that more perfect union. Beautiful and brilliant idea. The United States of America. How far we have fallen. How far we have deviated from our founding principles. People in this country don't even realize it. They don't even know it. They don't even understand it. Therefore, how can they even appreciate it? How can they truly understand what's going on if they didn't understand the founding principles to begin with? Coast to coast in this country, people are tearing down statues of people they don't even know. But that's what they're going to continue to do. They're going to continue to tear them down if they can get away with it. They're going to continue to burn them if they can get away with it. And to me, this is just, again, another attempt to distract people in this country from the main issues. It doesn't mean you ignore these people. It doesn't mean you let them get away with this, because they should not be getting away with this. Destroying this property. It's ridiculous. How can you be so upset at a statue? How small-minded are you? Why can't you have a civil debate about the issues? Issues that took place 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 2 days ago. Why can't you have a civil discussion, a civil debate? That's what this country is about. Yes, you can protest peacefully. Vandalizing property, doing harm to others, is not a peaceful protest. These people need to be held to account. But again, I want this audience to truly stay focused on the bigger issues at hand. Not just what they're showing you on Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, because it gets them ratings. To watch a bunch of lunatics run around like chickens with their heads cut off, tearing down a monument or attempting to do so. Pay attention to the people who are truly robbing this country blind. Not the people running into a Target or a Walmart stealing a television set. As wrong as it is, and again, those people need to be held to account. Pay attention to the trillions of dollars that are being stolen from our treasury. The purchasing power that is being stolen from our checkings and savings accounts through inflation, through money printing, through borrowing and spending money we do not have. That's why today's podcast is titled How Much More? How much more do they want? How much more are they going to take? How much more are they going to get away with? How much more are we going to allow them to get away with? And how much more until this system collapses in on itself? How much further? How much longer? How much more is it going to take? Because people get up in arms about televisions being stolen and a couple stores being broken into. And again, I don't justify it. Bigger picture. I don't like the monuments being taken down and destroyed and burned and all the other vandalism. But bigger picture. Trillions of dollars being looted. Nobody says a thing. Even with this whole stuff with COVID-19, whatever your thoughts might be, it's a hoax, it's overblown, it's understated, whatever you think. You have people coming out saying, oh, well, I can't wear a mask. This is in violation of my constitutional rights. Put a mask on for 2 months. Shut up. Is it going to kill you for 2 months to put on a mask? Chill out for 2 months. You get a global pandemic once every 100 years, if not longer. Is it going to really kill you to put on a mask for a couple months in social distance? I'm a libertarian. I don't like the government telling me what to do either. But can you just do it for a couple months? Can you chill out? Because this is what I'm talking about. People will get up in arms about having to put a mask on, but they don't even know what's going on in Washington, D.C. between the Capitol, the White House, the Treasury Department, and the Federal Reserve. Trillions of dollars being looted. Oh, don't even know about it. But I got to put a mask on for a couple months. God forbid my constitutional rights are under attack. Big picture here, people. Pay attention. It's just laughable. I don't like it either. I don't want to have a global pandemic. But there is one. Whether you think it's a hoax or not, put the mask on. You want to go into a store? You can't take a firearm into a Target. You can't light up a cigarette into a Target. You can't take an open bottle of beer or vodka or whatever else in there and say, hey, this is America. It's in violation of my constitutional rights. You can't make me do this. It's their property. It's their property. Can't smoke in there. Can't take a bottle of alcohol inside and drink it. Can't take a firearm into these buildings. It's their property. You want to take risks? It's all about taking risks, but you can't do harm to others either. For a couple months, can we not come together to do what's in the best interest for everybody? To contain this thing. To get the numbers down. Cases and deaths. This is just about the big picture, is really what I'm focusing on here. You understand this? The up in arms everybody gets about a television set or a mask. Give me a break. Trillions are being looted. And nobody says a thing. On Fox, on MSNBC, on CNN. You ever hear anybody talking about the Federal Reserve and going at them like I do? Or going after the Republicans and the Democrats like I do equally? No, because you want to hear what you want to hear. That's why you turn on Fox News, because it's those damn Democrats, or you turn on MSNBC because it's those damn Republicans. 96-0, no votes for America. What don't you understand? They do not care about you. They do not care about you. Let that sink in. And it's not the easiest thing to understand because people get all up in arms because you're a devout Republican or a devout Democrat. Get over it. They don't care about you. If they did, we wouldn't be staring at a $26.5 trillion national debt. We wouldn't be staring down the barrel of a $4 trillion national deficit this year alone. You understand how much money that is? No, you don't, because you're more concerned about a mask and a television set. But $4 trillion, word to the wise for those who may want to understand what that is in context, is 1 1/3 year of tax revenue. Federal government brings in about $3 1/3 trillion in tax revenue. That's assuming the economic conditions prior to the onset of COVID-19 were in place. Because you have to generate economic activity in order to tax something. So you tax it, they bring in $3 trillion, now they're spending $4 trillion, and it's going to be more than that by the time this current fiscal year at the end of September comes to a conclusion. It will be more. How much more? We don't know, but it will be more. Because when Congress gets their act together, when they get back together here shortly, what are they going to do? How much more quote-unquote stimulus are they going to throw at the system? How much more? They're going to extend the additional $600 a week for those collecting unemployment. They're going to extend that a couple months to the end of the year. Is it going to be forever and ever? Amen? Universal basic income? Is this modern monetary theory? Are the Republicans, these fiscal conservatives that I hear so much about but do not exist, are they going to come out? Are they going to grow a spine? Are they going to say enough of this? But then how are these same fiscal conservatives, if they do say no to the people getting an extra $600, then how can they justify the Federal Reserve going into the bond market, the corporate bond market, at least right now on the secondary market, purchasing the debt of Toyota, Volkswagen, Ford, BMW, General Motors, Verizon, AT&T, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft? You know, some of the largest corporations in the world. Some corporations that have more money than God. They're going to justify that too, that's fiscally conservative, that's perfectly A-OK? That is fitting with the idea of the United States of America? That is fitting and proper in a system that claims to be a free market capitalistic nation? I don't think so. I don't think so. And this is so obvious. It is right in your face. Yet we're only a few months away from an election, and everybody's going to go, bah, 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 bah. You're going to walk right into your little polling booth, and you're going to pull the lever for your silo because you think your guy's better. 96-0. They don't care about you. And this is just getting started. And they continue to call this stimulus. Another $1 trillion down the pike. We're going to add infrastructure to it. Another $1 trillion on top of it. Make it 2. What about 3? Because we made it $3 trillion before. Second quarter of this year alone, we borrowed net $3 trillion. $3 trillion. Just in the second quarter alone. We are now officially in the second half of 2020. If it is a fraction, if the volatility in the second half of this year is a fraction of the first half of this year, buckle up. I told this audience last year, before we started off in 2020, I said to buckle up, it's going to be a roller coaster. I had no idea it was going to be this bumpy. No idea it was going to be this bumpy, but it is. Because there were so many writings on the wall, it was so in your face. With all of the global protests, with all of the funny money that was being printed, with all of the BS lies that we were being told from China, from the United States, any country, it doesn't make a difference. Told you the global protests would be coming to a theater near you. Now they are. And they're on repeat. And they're not going away anytime soon. Because there's justification for these people to be out there protesting, and it's all connected. Now, the politicians are going to feed on this, to divide and conquer, to get people back in their respective silos because this is an election year. They don't want you focusing on the main culprit of all of this, how it all links back to the economy, how it all links back to fraudulent and flawed and abusive monetary policy and fiscal policy. One hand washes the other. They both justify the unjustifiable. That's what they do. That's who they are. These politicians are not going to come back to their home districts. They're not going to look you in the eye and say, we've messed up. We've lived beyond our means. This is unsustainable. We cannot do this anymore. $26 trillion and counting. Can't do it. Tighten up the belt. Move back with your parents. Have your parents move in with you. Do what you got to do. Never going to hear it. Let's just go to the printing press like we're a banana republic, because we are, and let's just print our problems away. And if that works, if they have somehow solved the mystery of the Sphinx here, if they have stumbled upon that elusive free lunch, well, then you don't have to pay taxes anymore. You don't have to pay your bills anymore. Send everything to the White House, the Treasury Department, the Capitol, or to the Federal Reserve. Take your bills, check the little box, change of address, send it to them, because there's no consequence. There's no limit to any of this. So how much more? Make it trillions, baby, because it's already at trillions. Why stop now? There's no cost associated with this whatsoever. Now, say that to some people overseas, such as Lebanon, because we've talked about Lebanon before. Why? Because they were one of the many countries who were protesting and rioting prior to COVID-19. And they are doing so now as well. If you've still paid attention to them a little bit, they don't get, of course, there's not much coverage on this. Over the past couple of weeks, food prices in Lebanon have gone up 100%. Just over the last 2 weeks alone. You thought it was bad before COVID-19. Buckle up, you haven't seen anything yet. And don't think for a second that it can't happen here, because I'm sure many of you were out there thought, oh, all those global protests, Alex, they're just going to stay there. They're going to stay overseas. They're not coming here. Don't be surprised if you get that type of inflation in this country. Doesn't mean it's going to happen anytime soon. It's a process. It's a process. But these are the negative consequences of our policies here in this country. That's how powerful we are as a nation. We get to export some of our problems onto other people. I don't think that's moral. I don't think that's ethical. I don't think that's American either. But that's what we're doing, and that's what we've done for a very long time. Inflation doesn't understand borders. Okay? It goes where it's going to go. Now, a lot of issues that are in Lebanon are their fault. That's the fault of the people for putting in those governments. It's the fault of those governments for behaving in the way that they did. But a lot of it is also what we have done here with exporting our inflation, with all of this money printing. You have the supply chain disruptions because of COVID-19. You have the geopolitical tensions of countries and politicians wanting to become more nationalistic. We're going to shut down these overseas supply chains. We're going to bring everything home to the United States, to Mexico, to Canada, the UK, to Germany, Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. I bet it's not going to be a very pretty picture. Okay? There's a reason you have supply chains set up the way that they are. It's because they work. Does it mean that they're the best? No, but it does work. A lot of money spent, a lot of capital expenditure, a lot of long-term investments. They didn't put that money there just to laugh at everybody. It's there to return a profit. It's there to generate an efficiency, and they do. And they do. But when you have country after country all running Ponzi schemes, and then you have an event, a global event such as COVID-19, which was just, the timing of it is still unbelievable to me. Because the global economy was a bubble in search of a pin. And then, boom, here you go, you got a global pandemic. And it is revealing, or it is attempting to reveal, the Ponzi scheme that is this global economy. And every federal government and their mother, and every central banker and their mother are doing their best to keep this Ponzi scheme afloat. Remember, Bernie Madoff would still be in business if he had a printing press. That's why Uncle Sam can keep this thing going. That's why other countries can keep this thing going. How much more? How much longer is the question? Is this a society we want to be a part of? If that's what we do, if that's how we solve our problems. This doesn't sound to me like prior generations. This doesn't sound to me like how the greatest generation of World War II that won World War II would be handling this situation. To me, those individuals, those Americans who actually understood what it meant to be an American, would sacrifice, would roll up their sleeves, would do what was necessary to do the right thing. Not to just turn on the printing press and say, yeah, just gloss over everything. Just keep it going. Just kick the can down the road. Put our problems that we are creating onto future generations, as well as the current generations, because we're going to have to pay for this too. But future generations who have had absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with any of this are going to have to pay the price. Lack of opportunity, lower standards of living, higher costs. They had nothing to do with it. But they're going to have to pay for it because nobody wants to sacrifice. Nobody wants to be honest. Nobody wants to tell the truth to at least the American people. I mean, of course, it's laughable to think that for some reason the U.S. government is always honest with its people. But let's even for the sake of argument, let's buy into that myth and say, even here, we're not even doing it. Okay, well, we expect the Russians to lie to the Russians. We expect the Chinese government to lie to the Chinese. We expect the North Koreans to lie to the North Korean people. But not here in the United States. Oh, no. We always tell the truth. Well, we're not. Not this time. And not many times prior either. Do you understand the big picture? Do you understand why I harp on central banking, monetary policy, and fiscal policy to the degree that I do? Because nobody else does. Nobody else talks about it. It's your Second Amendment. It's federal judges. It's burning down a statue. It's stealing a television. Trillions of dollars. Your money. Oh, well, I don't want to wear a mask. Can we focus on the bigger issues? This is why they're going to continue to get away with this. Because you're distracted. They want you distracted. They want you divided. And you're falling for it hook, line, and sinker. In my opinion. Are these serious issues? They sure are. Are they as big as the media would have you believe? That somehow the Democrats are going to take away your Second Amendment right? Ain't going to happen, folks. There's more guns in this country than there are people. I mean, except for the West Coast and East Coast and really the New England states, the loony bins, the Looney Tunes, who don't understand guns for whatever reason, they're the only ones who are concerned about it, who would maybe try to get away with it. The rest of the country, it's never going to happen that they would take away your guns, your Second Amendment rights. This is a diversion. This is a distraction. This is a divide and conquer tactic. Just like the Democrats. Do you really think the Republicans are really ever going to take away abortion? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. There's always going to be a doctor who will do it. There will always be a market, a black market. Something will always sprout up. But the media, politicians want you in those respective silos because they don't want you paying attention to what's really going on. They don't want you knowing that the Federal Reserve is buying up corporate bonds of the largest companies in the world. They don't want you knowing that. Can you imagine? Where's Occupy Wall Street? I don't know where these people are. Where are the Tea Partiers? Where are these people at? This is what we highlighted in our book, The Cynic's Guide to Investing. Published 5 years ago. The overlap between the Tea Party movement and Occupy Wall Street. Divide and conquer. There was so much overlap between those two movements. Yet they never got together to really join forces and really affect true change. Where are they now? Taxed enough already? Where is it? I mean, you look at the debt loads back then when the Tea Party came out compared to now. Give me a break. What is going on? Where are these people? The amount of fraud and the abuse and the bailouts that are happening that are even bigger now than they were during the great financial crisis. Where's Occupy Wall Street? Where are these people? I don't get it. I don't get it. Are they all a part of this Black Lives Matter movement? Are they all a part of these Antifa protests? Are they all a part of these burned down monuments protests? I don't understand where these people are. That would bring people together, in my opinion, if you truly understood the overlap between the Occupy Wall Street movement and the Tea Party movement. Instead of just saying, well, I only agree with Occupy Wall Street if I watch and listen to MSNBC, or I only agree with the Tea Party movement if I watch and listen to Fox Business. That's ridiculous. That's what they want you to think. That we are separated. That we are divided. And they continue to drive a bigger wedge between us every single day. Because they are trying to get as much as they can before this ship sinks totally. That's exactly what is going on right now. Trillions of dollars. Trillions of dollars. Stay focused on the big issues. But that's not on television, so you don't think it exists. And do you think that's a coincidence? You think that's not by design? They don't want you knowing who these people are. They don't want you knowing what laws are actually being passed to take this, the Nobody Cares Act. Well, we're going to give you $1,200, sit down and shut up. I'm going to give a company with a market cap of $1 trillion, $1.5 trillion, I'm going to buy up hundreds of billions of dollars of their bonds. But I'm going to give you $1,200. They don't need the money. The investors who were bailing out don't need the money. They can continue with holding those bonds of Apple and Microsoft, and they'll get paid their coupon. But no, we're going to do it anyway, which was one of our podcasts a few weeks ago. You remember that? When one of my senators, Pat Toomey from the state of Pennsylvania, was actually pressing on Jay Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, a little bit. Well, yeah, Chairman, you announced you were going to do these things, but really they're emergency policies, are they not? It doesn't mean that you have to use them, do you, just because you announced that you would, especially if conditions were better than what you had expected, and you are now testifying that conditions are now better than expected, so why are you continuing to use these emergency facilities? Well, because we can. Because we can, and because we want to, and because nobody's going to stop us. And of course, he didn't say it like that, but that's exactly what he did. Nobody oversees them. Nobody overrules them. The central bank, they want to cut interest rates, they're cutting them. They want to announce emergency facilities, they're going to announce them. If they want to implement those facilities, they're going to implement them. To whatever degree they want to. Why? Because they can. Because you're more focused on putting on a mask or who's stealing a television set. That's why. You better wake up, people. Because this country's going down. Doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. And I don't mean to be so gloomy. But you have to identify the problem in order to solve it. You want to start solving it? Get rid of the Fed, abolish the federal income tax. Everything else is up to us. I'm not here to pretend or to proclaim that I have the answers for everything. That's up to everybody. That's up to the entrepreneur in his garage or in his basement or in her attic working on the next best thing. It's not for me or any one person to have all of the answers, because not one person does have all of the answers. All I know is we cannot continue down this path. We cannot continue functioning with a central bank. We cannot continue functioning with an income tax. We just can't. Otherwise, you're just going to say, oh, well, we're going to bring back warehouses, we're going to bring back distribution, we're going to bring back manufacturing. For what? For what? To keep going on with this system that is unsustainable? It doesn't make any sense to me. We need what would be considered, unfortunately in this country, radical change. When in fact, all it is restoring this country to the idea of America. Restoring us to the idea of 1776. But today, if I said this stuff and I really had a huge audience, people might consider me crazy. This guy's nuts. Get rid of the central bank. Get rid of the income tax. Because nobody even brings that stuff up. MSNBC, let's increase the income tax, especially on those who make a lot of money. Fox News, let's lower the income tax. Why not get rid of it? Why is that never brought up? Because they don't want you thinking like that. They just want you to tweak it a little bit. And they think, well, if you just tweak it a little bit, then everything's going to be okay. And then another presidential cycle comes around and everything's not okay. And another presidential cycle comes around and everything's not okay. And you're complaining and bitching and moaning about the same damn things that you were before 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 16 years ago, 32 years ago. And you scratch your head and you wonder why. How can this be? Maybe it's because you're too focused on wearing a mask or not wearing a mask and somebody taking a television set. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why. The endless wars, the propaganda, everything. The misinformation, disinformation. Nope, couldn't be any of that. It's this guy looting somebody on Target. People will wake up eventually. I just hope it's not too late. I just hope it's not too late. Another interesting thing, I had a little news flash come across my phone today. I think it was from Yahoo Finance. BlackRock, yes, the same BlackRock who is the administrator of all of this funny money that's been printed, on behalf of the Treasury Department and the Federal Reserve. They just happened to pick BlackRock, because I think one of the board members or a senior executive at BlackRock was a former governor of the Federal Reserve Board. Okay. You understand this? You understand how this game is played? All right. So it's not a coincidence that BlackRock has this money, that they're the administrator of all this money. Well, they come out now and they say, well, we're downgrading stocks to neutral because we think that fiscal stimulus is waning. What does this tell you? Because interestingly enough, a few months ago, the CEO, Mr. Fink, came out, Larry Fink, and said, buy stocks. And if you had listened to Mr. Fink, you would have done pretty well. Now BlackRock is saying, well, we're downgrading stocks to neutral. So it's going to be interesting to see what takes place. Are we going to be choppy? Are we going to be sideways? Is this going to be a sort of a sell-off over the next coming days, weeks, or months? Because they're in the know. They're the ones with the money. And maybe they're running out of it. Because there's no more quote-unquote fiscal stimulus. It's starting to wane. So between BlackRock and the Federal Reserve, I guess they're both calling on Congress to say, hey, start spending more money that we don't have. That's the system we have. They're basically admitting to us, especially if stocks do go down because of this. And again, not a day, but it could take some time. But if they go down, it's going to be very interesting that the only thing that is keeping this economy afloat, this stock market up, and this is no surprise to this audience, is the funny money. That's it. It's a game. This is a big game of Monopoly. Except it's not a game. It's not a game, is it? This involves real people with real consequences. The Con Jobs report that we went over last Friday for the month of June, claiming that 4.8 million jobs, new jobs, were created. They weren't new. They were brought back. They weren't new. An additional 588,000 jobs became permanent job losers, taking the total to 2.9 million. 2.9 million permanent job losers over the past few months. That ain't good, ladies and gentlemen. The employment population ratio. About half the country is unemployed. When you dig deeper into it, you see that 31.5 million Americans, an increase from the prior week, are collecting some form of unemployment insurance. 31.5 million. You look at the past 4 weeks in June from an initial claims basis, 1.5 million, I'm rounding, and this is actually rounding down on this one, 1.5 million, 1.5 million, 1.5 million, 1.4 million. Do the math. Rounding. 1.5 times 3, you got 4.5 million. Then you tack on the other 1.4, you're at 5.9 million in the month of June. Yet somehow we miraculously, in the month of June, created 4.5 million jobs during a survey week of June 7th to June 13th. A couple weeks before, COVID-19 cases started to increase, and you started to see states lock down their economies again or to slow down their reopenings. It's all a con job. Told you that was what it was going to be with these jobs numbers moving forward. Because of the Nobody Cares Act, the PPP loans, all of this stuff, garbage in, garbage out. People are trying to make decisions. People are quote-unquote employed, but are they working? Well, we don't know. We don't know. Because of all of these PPP loans, and now the government has released a list of these companies that have received some of this money because of all of the pressure that's been put on them to release it. And rightly so, because it's our money. Because they didn't want to do it. So we'll have to find some time to go through that list. And you'll see a lot of the companies on there. Did they really need it? They buddy-buddy with the president, or they buddy-buddy with some major Democrats. Who are they? I mean, what politician are they not buddy-buddy with? A lot of these companies that received this money. And a lot of it's going to be forgiven. There's no free lunch. So that means it's going to add to the national debt. That's where it goes. It's just like if they were to forgive student loans. There is no forgiveness. That $1.7 trillion would be tacked on to the national debt immediately. So everybody else would have to pay for it. So where's the responsibility? That's moral hazard. Just as an example. Just as an example. So how much more is it going to be? How much more is it going to take for people to wake up and to truly protest that which is deserving of protest? How much more are they going to try to steal? How much more are they going to try to get away with? How much more are we going to allow them to get away with? Because that's what this is. It's a game of give and take. And they are taking everything. Stay diversified, stay vigilant, and stay with the Kapital News. I am Alex Karitis. Godspeed.